As part of ArcheryTalk's 2017 hunting bow projects, we did full reviews of 6 different flagship hunting bows, which you can find on our YouTube and Facebook channels. To keep things interesting, we thought we'd do some head-to-head comparisons. In this one, we're going to focus on the Hoyt Carbon Defiant and the Xpedition Xplorer SS. Both bows are dressed in QAD Ultra Rests and Trophy Ridge React H5 sights. They're also sharing a bee stinger counterslide stabilizer. The Hoyt Carbon Defiant has an axle-to-axle length of 31 inches, a brace height of 7 inches, an ASA rated speed of 331 feet per second, and a mass weight of 3.6 pounds. The Xpedition Xplorer SS has an axle-to-axle length of 30 inches, a brace height of 6 1/8 inches, an IBO rated speed of 355 feet per second, and a mass weight of 3.9 pounds. As for speed, it doesn't look like much of a competition on paper, where the Xpedition Xplorer SS has a 24 feet per second advantage. But Hoyt and Xpedition come to their speed numbers a little differently. One uses IBO, one uses ASA. We ran both through a chrono using a gold tip Valkyrie 398 grain arrow, and we found that the Xpedition Xplorer SS shot a blistering 295 feet per second, but the Hoyt was much closer than expected at 283 feet per second, having the difference they had on paper. If I had to choose one of these bows to shoot 100 or more times in a given session, I'm going to give the clear win to the Hoyt Carbon Defiant. It's a very smooth, easy draw that you can do again and again without really fatiguing yourself. The back wall on this bow is a little bit soft, but I've never had a big problem with that. As for the Xpedition, I actually came to enjoy the draw cycle a lot more than I was expecting. It's a short, speed-focused bow, but really, besides being a little bit stiff, the draw was very linear and pulls into a very firm back wall thanks to the limb stops. As soon as I picked up the Xplorer SS, I really came to enjoy the grip. It's got a nice flat front, it's fairly narrow, and fits really nicely into my hand. While I give the edge and grip to the Xplorer, I actually came to enjoy the Hoyt grip more than I thought I would. It's a little wider than I would normally like, but it narrows nicely at the throat, and it does feel nice and smooth in my hand, and I also think it's the nicest looking grip of any bow I've tested this year. Like any flagship bows, both the Carbon Defiant and the Xplorer SS are quite capable of busting knocks if you do your part. I was a bit skeptical of shooting the 30-inch Xplorer, as it's a speed bow and a bit shorter than I normally like, but it grouped very well for me at 20 and 30 yards. However, I did struggle slightly to stay consistent at 40 yards and beyond. The Defiant is just an inch longer axle-to-axle, but it feels like it has the stability of a longer bow. At 20 and 30 yards, the Defiant grouped very similar to the Xplorer, but I felt more confident extending my range with the Hoyt. I spent one day shooting 6 different hunting bows out to 60 yards, and the Carbon Defiant produced the most consistent groups. I had no trouble tuning either of these bows. Both of them were shooting bullet holes through paper fairly quickly, and broadhead tuning wasn't much more difficult. I'd probably call this category a draw. Fit and finish on both of these bows is excellent. I love the textured buckskin finish on the Carbon Defiant, but the Realtree AP Black Camo on the Xplorer was no slouch. I'll give the edge to the Hoyt by the slightest of margins, only because I can't seem to get the D-loop to stay still on the Xplorer. It's hard not to give the Xplorer the edge in value and price. It's got a $400 cost savings over the Carbon Defiant. However, that $400 does buy you the Carbon Riser, which is going to be stiffer than aluminum, it's lighter than aluminum, and when you're hunting in the cold weather, it's much warmer to the touch. Still, with an extra $400 in your pocket, you can outfit the Xplorer with a nice sight, a rest, and maybe even some arrows. Picking a winner really comes down to personal preference and your bank account. If money is no object, I'm going to go with the Carbon Defiant. But if my bank manager tells me that $400 is a little too much, I would have no trouble taking the Xplorer SS into the woods with me.